Lawmakers at the Capitol just passed a bill that will bar landlords from telling tenants they cannot keep guns in their rental homes and apartments here in Tennessee. So it's known as the House Landlord Firearm Act, and the bill has now passed both chambers of the Tennessee General Assembly. It passed the Senate earlier and cleared the House just within the last hour. So if Governor Bill Lee signs it into law, landlords would no longer be allowed to ban tenants or their guests from legally possessing, carrying, transporting, or storing firearms on rented property or inside their cars. Supporters say the bill protects Second Amendment rights, arguing that renters should not lose the ability to defend themselves just because they don't own their home. But critics say landlords should still have the right to set rules for their own property. The Republican-backed bill passed both chambers on a party line vote.